And with us, hopefully on the other end, are the Gilbert people, Sharon, Derek, easy Sharon.
The Gilbert people.
The Gilbert people.
It's sort of like a horror movie.
Well, am I wrong? And I got to tell you, the first question I have, having you guys on, is why do I have you on?
I don't know. Search me.
Is there some kind of auto-suggestion? I wake up in the middle of the night going, call Derek.
Well, yes.
All right.
Yeah, see, I'm doing remote viewing.
Oh, don't. Oh.
It's remote hypnotizing.
Yeah, except the message you were supposed to send was eat Oreo cookies.
I know. Buy my book.
Well, I'll tell you what. I won't hold this against you, but you guys had a pretty good week, and I'm serious about this. You got on the Power Hour. You on Frank Whalen. Does a great job, and I'm glad for you that it happened. And also, I will tell you this too, that you did very well by Charles Wilcox, and that book is being reissued, and you did a nice job by him, and thank you very much for that.
Oh, you know what? Thank you for sending that suggestion our way. He is a fascinating guy.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating book. Now, I'm only about 275 pages into it as I try to read it in the little cracks of time that I have between working and trying to write myself. But Sharon read the book in about 3 days. And, of course, we're talking about The Transformation of the Republic by Charles Wilcox. And it's just fascinating stuff.
It is, and I'm glad you gave him a venue, because both he and Eric John Phelps, have a problem trying to get this out, because a lot of people don't want to step on the feet. Mm-hmm. And, you're not doing it because you're antagonistic to another religion. But the Vatican is a very curious entity that really needs more inspection. And, of course, the one great thing that Charles did, and he continues to send me stuff, and that is articles and editorial cartoons from, the 19th century and the early 20th century, where you see a real problem, as far as some people are concerned, with the Vatican's tentacles somewhat wrapping themselves around Washington, D.C.
I'd love to see some of those cartoons. We're not getting any cartoons.
Okay, I'll send you one. There was a Detroit newspaper that had something from 1898 called Pope Leo's Dream, and I'll send that to you. I'll send that to you. And also, you had an article from a Chicago newspaper that talked about some kind of stilted political race going on in Wisconsin, where all the Romanists, they called them Romanists, now remember that, all the Romanist churches were saying, you better vote for this person because they're Catholic and all this other stuff. And the editorial writer said, well, if we did this with Protestants, they'd be all over us like a cheap suit, Mm-hmm. So anyway, but the thing is this, both gentlemen document what they did. And this is something that's been covered up by time, but I think it's probably one of the most insidious situations that, goes undetected. But the thing is, I thank you very much for giving him air. I don't think it's a wrong thing to do. I'm just glad you had the temerity to do that, and thanks a lot, guys.
Oh, well, it was our pleasure, because, again, it's a fascinating topic. I mean, both of us love history and love reading about the characters and the way they interact, and, it is very clear when you see the documentation that he pulled together that the Vatican was playing a very important role in what was happening in America in the middle of the 19th century and continues to today. But I think it was even more so in the 19th century because, well, I think back then you're more likely to have parishioners doing what they were told by the bishops and priests than now in the 21st century. But, still, he makes it very clear right from the very first chapter of the book that there were things going on there that should not have been. I mean, when you've got priests 1,000 miles away from Washington, D.C., finding out that Lincoln was about to be murdered, 3 days before it happened, it's obvious.
That is weird.
Yeah, and it's obvious that there was stuff going on inside.
All right, but I'll tell you what I wanted you to do also, and Sharon, you've spoken a bit about this the last week, and Derek also, I wanted you guys, you are history buffs, no doubt, but you do write fiction, and of course, I think there is no such thing as fiction. But Sharon and Derek both, would you talk about some of the titles that you've written and are out there for public consumption?
Well, I have two books that are available now. One is called Winds of Evil, and the other one is called The Armageddon Strain. And they both set up a series of books that I hope we'll get them all published. We're in negotiations right now, and anyone who's listening and you, Viz, probably are aware, when you're working with publishers, they're always looking at the bottom line. So we're still trying to figure out exactly what books will be able to come out when, but two books out there now. Winds of Evil is really dealing with genetics and the idea that government cabal and that really is run by a group of demons can take over a small town and affect change that dominoes into the entire country and eventually into the entire world. The Armageddon Strain is built over the idea of all of these dead and missing scientists and how it relates to the avian flu virus.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Just somewhat timely.
Yeah, somewhat timely indeed. You know, and I wrote that 2.5 years ago. And in the Armageddon Strain, it's actually sort of the MacGuffin, to be honest with you, of the novel. It's not really the core of the novel. The core of the novel is the notion that a group of, again, the same group, because that's what we write about all the time. It's the cabal of the weak. But you know, we all know that there are men and women out there who really do want to run the world. But the joke's on them because they're being used by the supernatural forces that are really behind it all, and that's what we write about.
But Sharon, let me ask you this about the, about this pandemic or whatever. And even though you wrote it a couple of years ago, would I be right in saying did SARS have any kind of, kindling point behind that? Did you run with what the SARS scare at that time, or did you really just poke it out and say, look, let's pick a pandemic and run with it?
No, actually, at the time I was writing a book, actually writing a script about the Spanish flu.
Okay.
And I decided I wanted to write a fiction novel set in current time that would be based around something similar to that. And, of course, within the last few years, scientists have decided to play around with the Spanish flu again. And so, essentially, what I did was find something in the mix that was just starting out at that time. It had infected a lot of flocks, but it really wasn't making the news. And so I saw H5N1 was actually, taking hold in a small way over in Vietnam at the time, and I thought, well, I'll just run with that.
I'm not going to read it now, and I don't think we'll have time because I like to save it for another show, but I don't also want to be remiss in not mentioning it. But I'm pulling out a book here called Vaccination, the Silent Killer, A Clear and Present Danger. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with this?
No, I definitely agree with just that title.
Well, it's written by co-authors Honoroff and McBean. And this goes back, this one goes back to 1977. And there's another one I have called The Poison Needle. And the reason I'm going to bring this up, and I had said this, I think, on another show, and I want to share that information. If I have to do it through a show, I'll do it. But I've never seen a situation where I have asked through interlibrary loan for a title, and only one university or public library has it. And that was the case with one of them. The other one only had 3 places in America. And that tells me, and of course I'm speculating, I got to tell you, but the thing is, if those books are that little found in the United States, I think Big Pharma grabbed those suckers and bought them and got rid of them.
You know what? That could very well be. In fact, it amazes me that it got printed in the first place.
Well, the first printing you sometimes can't stop. It's like the first reports, and that's another whole story. But you guys have seen first audio and video of 9/11 that you'll never see again because it talks about, what it talks about. Mm-hmm. And in the same situation, it got out once, but it ain't never getting out again. And they will also, they being, corporations, will make sure they grab as many as they can and put them into the landfill. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, so you're saying that your particular story, Sharon, was not necessarily predicated on SARS. You just ran with, a storyline that you believe was, obviously possible, and of course is, as we see today, very much so.
Oh, it's very much possible. Yeah. Yeah, and what's really strange is that part of the setting takes place in New Mexico in an Indian reservation, or very close to one. And, of course, Derek and I have been reading all day about the Cabazon Indian Reservation and how it relates to Danny Casolaro and the octopus and Michael Riconosciuto and just you can just name about anything. Lockerbie, part of it.
Yeah, and you're
just about anything that's happened in the last 30 years, and it's all part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not talking fiction, too. You're right. And Derek sent me some emails, and it is really, really a web of intrigue.
Mm-hmm. It is, and frankly, it's one that you have to be very careful about talking about because people are dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Derek, first of all, if you want to chime in on that, by all means, and also, if you want to speak about your latest work or your most favorite work, please do so.
Well, I've got one that is part of the renegotiating or the negotiations that Sharon's talking about, but one called The God Conspiracy, which was written about 2.5 years ago also, and it deals with a false flag terror attack. Surprise, surprise. It's weird, but the situation in New Orleans after Katrina was not too different from the situation in some respects that I used as the plot for the God Conspiracy. False flag terror event creates chaos and fear. Government uses that to sweep in and start rounding up people they find inconvenient and cracking down on private gun ownership and other things like that. And that's the basic plot, and that should be out sometime next year. But in just some of the research that we've done lately, I told Sharon the other night after, reading some more of Chuck Wilcox's book that I think, it's time to put together a summary of all the stuff that we've been learning over the last couple of years and compile it into a book, something like Everything That You Know Is Wrong. Mm-hmm. And just, okay, here's real history. Here's really the way things work.
Derek is going to write that book, by the way. We think it's a great title.
Yeah, so that'll be the next project.
You might have a copyright infringement there because at a website, I forget, what is that website? Everything You Know Is Wrong. Oh, I forget what it is.
Well, that was the title that popped into my head at 2 a.m, and so we'll research that. So. Well,
I'll give you the website, but I mean, that's a good title. Also,
early days.
What I love, and we said this a couple of times, but the old 33rd degree Freemason Shriner Harry Truman stated that the only secrets there are is a history you don't know about. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a dead bang great statement about what is going on. That's as good as Disraeli's statement about their things go on, but things are conducted by other personages that you might think occur. That was in the book you wrote. Disraeli wrote what? Coningsby. That's it. That's where it comes from. And he tells a little story about things do happen behind the curtain. I'm gonna play something for you if you don't mind. And if you do mind, I'm gonna play it anyway. Right? It's my show.
Name that tune.
Yeah, that's right. Push the buzzer, and the first one to get it. Well, I'm hoping I run this right, because I said, like, the CD player is like the D. Martin closet. I open it up and I never know who's in there. But, I mean, this whole thing about Katrina and what happened in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear about the troops being spooked by what they thought was some, shall we say, supernatural elements?
Yes. Yes. We have seen, we saw that report.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So I can't play it now, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to play it anyway.
Go ahead.
Because it's my show.
But tonight, some military men and women swear that they are getting a dose of New Orleans' infamous, spiritual life. What they have seen, heard, and found has made many a seasoned soldier a believer. CBS 5's Janet Yee reports from New Orleans.
From the beginning, New Orleans has had a reputation, from vampires to voodoo, a city of sin.
In the name of Jesus Christ, we command you, Satan, to leave the dark areas of this building.
The Sophie D. Wright School evacuated of children occupied by soldiers, many of whom feel they're not alone.
Laying in my sleeping bag, I opened my eyes, and in the doorway was a little girl. It was in my imagination.
I was just using the restroom, and I just seen like a little shadow kind of moving in front of me.
California National Guard, anybody here?
California National Guard soldiers were first on ground to protect and preserve.
I got him on it.
Soldiers charging forward in search and rescue efforts. All the while, it's not just images of Katrina haunting them.
There felt no warrant to any of the soldiers in this building. New Orleans is also very ingrained in voodoo, cannibalism, witchcraft.
Now, you may think I'm crazy, but the first time I walked into this bathroom, I too felt something. And it was long before I'd heard any of these ghost stories. There was a cloud up in the wall in this corner. You see the hole in the ceiling there? That's freaking a lot of people out. I just felt this really creepy presence. On the other side of the wall is a supply closet, and that's really freaky.
I was standing in there getting cleaning supplies, and there was a little girl laughing.
This is indeed a dark city, and we're bringing the light. You know, wherever the soldiers go, there goes the Word of God.
Indeed, at this marina, boats were tossed like paper, a piece of which could not be seen for miles. Yet soldiers found this, a Bible, laying open to Revelations 10 and 11.
It talks about a great storm that lasts 3 days, that washes away a city, and that there are bodies in the city.
Uncanny, unbelievable, and not the first time.
It was a church that the north wall had completely blown down, and there in front of the altar was the church's large Bible open to the exact same passage.
At first, some scoffed. Then, putting it all together, the presence of something, if not just the power of nature, cannot be scorned. In New Orleans, Janet Yee, CBS 5, Eyewitness News.
All right, what about that?
Where soldiers go, there goes the
Yeah, I know.
There goes God.
Yeah.
That was an interesting line.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, you guys were aware of that, right?
Yeah, actually, we saw that report on the news.
I think you spotted it on the web, and we watched it on your computer one night.
Was that where I saw it?
Yeah.
We did watch together.
Yeah, because that wasn't, I mean, obviously that was out of New Orleans network TV, so obviously if it wasn't national, you guys probably tapped into that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, is it not?
It really is interesting because that area has such a, an infamous reputation with regard to Santeria and voodoo. There's
all
a lot
kinds
of
of
nasty stuff going on down there.
Yeah, that's Anne Rice territory.
Anne Rice territory. I've been down there a few times for Mardi Gras, and I'll tell you that when I was young and stupid, and there are things that go on Bourbon Street, and especially a couple of blocks off of Bourbon Street that I never should have seen.
Well, in '77, I went down there, and I spent one night. Well, how does it go? I spent a week, one night in New Orleans. Enough of that. But also, this leads into something else I wanted you guys to talk about. And Derek, you sent me some stuff. Jeff Wells has covered this pretty well, and Jeff has refused to. Well, not refused, but he's passed on coming on. He just lost his mom, so I mean.
Oh no!
Yeah, Jeff's lost his mom, so he's kind of like just repairing.
Oh,
and,
we heard,
he is. Yeah, but he uncovered a bunch of stuff about an occult network that's taking place around this trial. And Derek, are you familiar with this at all? With what's going on out in L.A. with the lawyer of somebody who.
Well, yeah, and he's been a great source of information, and through the leads that Jeff has blogged at his.
Which one is that? The
but there are a couple. Well, yeah, and see that's the thing. There are a couple out there involving lawyers now. There's the Hamlin case, and that was the one I think I sent you today. Richard Hamlin, who was about a year ago, went to the police with his wife, and they laid out a plot that his father-in-law was concocting to kill him because his father-in-law was allegedly the head of a satanic cult out in the Sacramento area, and 2 days later, after investigating a little bit, the police went back and arrested the lawyer, Hamlin. Susan, the wife, recanted her confession that she was part of this plot, and now Richard Hamlin is on trial for beating his wife and abusing his children. And the testimony that his wife gave, a sworn statement to police that she had abused their children sexually, and had been part of this plot to murder her husband, was all a lie made up out of fear of her husband. The thing that's really bizarre about that story is that Michael Riconosciuto has come out of the woodwork. And he's a name that should be pretty familiar to any conspiracy researcher. He's the CIA operative who was working at the Cabazon Indian Reservation with the CIA to produce biological weapons and weapons of mass destruction for client states being served by the CIA, and back in the early 80s.
Right.
Early to mid-80s.
Yeah, he also tweaked the Promise software, which had belonged to Inslaw and was borrowed by Ed Meese.
And then shipped out to various client states around the world, but with a backdoor left in the software so that the NSA could access those computers whenever they felt like it.
Right. That all leads into Iran-Contra and that whole thing.
And, of course, leads back to Paytech, which Indira Singh discovered was using the Promise software to access and mess with the national air defenses of the United States on 9/11.
That Promise software scapping was underneath Clinton's administration, wasn't it?
Oh, gosh, that all goes all the way back to the Reagan administration.
Back to Reagan and Bush.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking, stuff that goes way, way back. But the Riconosciuto connection is really strange in that he claims that he can verify that Richard Hamlin's father-in-law, the one who was supposedly the head of this coven, a gentleman named Dr. Sidney Seymour, was in fact connected to a satanic group connected with the CIA, that he was there at the Indian reservation, Cabazon Reservation, working on biological weapons, and that and this was the interesting thing that Jeff Wells pulled and put into his blog, and I don't think he caught the connection, that the main contact for Riconosciuto in his work at the reservation there was a gentleman named Nichols, Robert Booth Nichols.
Oh, okay.
Nichols was surrounded by, and this is according to a book that's available online called The Last Circle, was surrounded by people who called themselves Chosen Ones.
Have you heard that phrase, Chosen Ones, again?
Yeah.
Before, from Russ Dizdar?
Absolutely.
Right, and so that again comes full circle now to, from 1983 or 82, I guess, was when Seymour was supposedly in the reservation there, to 2005, when he's supposedly the head of this satanic group that wants to murder Richard Hamlin because he's a Christian married to a woman who's supposed to become the high priestess of the coven. It's a bizarre story, and the mainstream media is not going to cover it in these terms. In fact, the Sacramento Bee article that Jeff Wells quoted dealt with the case as though it were just a simple case of spousal abuse. Wife beating. They glossed over the whole occult aspect of it, just like they did with the Hosanna Church scandal down in Louisiana. And it's because I guess there's this inborn belief in most people that this kind of stuff just doesn't happen here. This doesn't happen in America. And, of course, because there is pressure from above, I believe, to squash this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have the stuff in front of me, so if I ask you and you can't run with it, I understand, because I can't. And that is also, what about the high-powered lawyer defending somebody and his wife dies?
Oh, Daniel Horowitz?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pamela Vitale, his wife, was killed allegedly by Scott Gillespie. That's the story you're talking about?
Yeah,
right,
absolutely. Right. And what's a little strange about that?
Well, that he had been defending Susan Polk, who is accused of killing her husband. Her husband was Felix Polk. Thank you very much, honey. He was a psychologist who, he was much older than she was. I think he was in his 30s or maybe even early 40s.
Early 40s when they met, and she was 16.
Yeah, and she was 15 or 16.
Oh.
And she told her mother that he seduced her when she went in to talk to him, and And then, of course, she just became enamored with him and mesmerized by him, and they had an affair and got married. And they had 3 kids together.
Right.
Anyway, they had, 3 kids together, and their son Adam, Felix Polk. We have a recording that is still available on the internet. It's an audio recording of Felix Polk that was played at this trial by Daniel Horowitz at the opening day of the trial. And this was just a few days before his wife's death.
Right.
He played this audio tape of Felix Polk talking about how his son Adam had been subjected to satanic acts. He was forced to watch murders and participate in all sorts of sexual activity.
Yeah, repugnant.
He describes it in ways that really are horrifying. And all these were supposed to have happened to his son when his son was about 18 months old.
Yeah. But then eventually Susan came out and said, you know what, Felix was the one who was abusing the kids.
Exactly.
And that's why she finally killed him. You know, she says that he was the one who was involved in the satanic activity, that he was the mind-controlled victim, and that he was, repeating the abuse that he'd been subjected to their children.
Right. And if I remember correctly, they were from the same community as Daniel Horowitz. They were neighbors, which was why he became the attorney.
Don't you just love it?
So, yeah. So so Daniel Horowitz is defending Susan Polk, and then Horowitz's wife, Pamela Vitale, is killed in a murder that has occult overtones.
Right.
39 blows to the head. That was a detail that was put into all of the early stories. Now, 39, of course, is a significant number in occult terms.
Right. It's 13 times 3.
Yep.
And there was Lorraine Cross carved into her back.
Yep. It certainly looks as though somebody didn't want Horowitz to bring certain details and facts out in court.
That is a strange situation, isn't it? Holy mackerel. In California, which also was the scene of the Helter Skelter murders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the land of all the cults.
Well, if we're going to talk about this, there's a story now that I think everybody's seen on the television for the last few days of the 18-year-old male who killed his 14-year-old girlfriend's parents.
Yeah.
And David
Ludwig?
Ludwig, thank you. They're from Lidditz, Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Does Lidditz ring a bell to you?
I know where you're going. But go ahead. Yeah.
I'll let you say it.
No, but please, just say that town again.
Lidditz, Lititz.
Yep.
All right.
That's the heart of Amish country in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
The heart of the Pennsylvania Dutch. And
slip of the tongue, eh?
Yeah.
Yes, he didn't mean to say that.
But it's really bizarre because this small community of about 9,000 is the site of a lawsuit that was just resolved within the last 2 weeks. A woman named Rose Gray filed a lawsuit against her psychiatrist for helping her recover repressed memories of satanic ritual abuse. Now, their sessions went on for like 10 years. And after she had recovered all these memories, she was somehow persuaded or decided that those memories were no longer valid or true, and she filed a lawsuit and won several $100,000 from her attorney, from her psychiatrist, and that was just I think October 25th was the date that the decision came down in court.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's Lidditz, Pennsylvania, which is a town of about 9,000 people.
Yep.
And what are the odds?
What are the odds? And you know what? We looked this young man up online. He's got a couple of blogs out there. They're still online. They haven't been removed by the police yet. Hers has. She had one also. Hers is not there anymore. But he's still got his up, and you can find where he is talking about a barn that his family owns, and how he and his friend Sam Lohr, Lohr, a young man that is now being mentioned as, well, I'm not really sure what the news is saying, but they mentioned him today. Well, anyway, his friend. They're doing these wonderful things with regard to having Christian fellowshipping in this barn. And I have to say, Viz, you read these blogs and you honestly get the impression that this is an incredible Christian, down-to-earth young man. I can understand if this is the personality, if this is the person that everybody thought they knew, why everyone is shocked.
And the reason we're making kind of side remarks to the situation is that the Gilberts are well aware, and we've talked, and we've emailed about the people we've had on. We both had on Russ Dizdar. I've had on Kathleen Sullivan, who was a child of this situation, and Ellen Lachter, who's a clinical psychologist from San Diego. And all three of them, and this is where we're going, I believe, they resonate with the fact that what is going on in southeast Pennsylvania, because so many of the satanic and the occult trappings are traced back to that. And I will tell you guys, and I think I've said this ad nauseum, but I'll still say it again, when Kathleen Sullivan was on to talk about her book Unshackled, Harry very astutely said, Kathleen, is there a whole lot of Deutsch in Pennsylvania Dutch?
Right.
And she said yes. In other words, that Nazis could come in to Pennsylvania Dutch land, not have to worry. I mean, you guys, we're wondering about Amish and Mennonites and stuff, but the thing is, no, they didn't have to worry about the religious trappings of the Amish. They just slipped in to the Pennsylvania Dutch who speak German. And they could work from there. And Dizdar said it, and Ellen said it, and Kathleen had said it. So when you guys, we're kidding around a little bit about, the Deutsch, yes, there is. And I don't know, I got this article from LancasterOnline.com. It says, Transit Satanic Abuse Now at Trial.
Right.
I think we're talking about the same thing, aren't we? It says it's a scene straight out of the film Rosemary's Baby, Men and Beastmaster.
That's the lady.
Very article.
Rose Gray, and then her psychiatrist, Dr. Stephen Powers.
People do not want to believe. That's why when Halloween comes around, it just sickens me a bit now, because I understand more than I ever did before. And the thing is, you guys want a cult, you got a cult. You want murder, you got murder. You want gore, you got gore. Why in the world would you want to celebrate it through that holiday? And you're right. Southeast Pennsylvania, I do believe, because Nazis were filtered into there, was a hotbed for this kind of situation. I think it goes on to this day, apparently, from what we've just seen. It certainly does. And you've tapped into that as well, and you don't have a problem with that, do you?
No, absolutely not. And that's one of the reasons that we have taken down the trappings of Halloween over the last few years, because we're in the same situation. As we've studied this more and more over the last couple of years, as we've had the opportunity to talk to Russ Dizdar, which we've done a couple of times, exchange a number of emails with him, and we want to go and do more research into this area, not because we're fascinated with it, but because we have to know the enemy. Once you cross the Rubicon, you can't go back. You can't pretend that it just doesn't exist anymore. And you're right. The celebration of Halloween, which has become, in many parts of the country, the number 2 holiday of the year after Christmas, Saturnalia.
Yeah.
But it's only fun. You can only enjoy it the way you did when you were a kid if you don't accept the literal existence of the supernatural and the interaction of the supernatural world with our physical world. And that's the point we're making. And this whole case out there on the West Coast with Hamlin and Riconosciuto, and how the whole thing, over the last 25 years that's been going on in that area out there ties together, the chosen ones and the fascination that that group out there back in the early 80s at that Indian reservation had with Nazi occultism, according to the author of the Last Circle, and the fact that it's popping up and bearing fruit here in 2005 with these kids that are broken and damaged, and like Scott Dulesky, and we don't know that he's a product of this sort of mind control, but boy, what he did allegedly has the marks of it. We're going to see more and more of that. If Russ Dizdar is right, and the information that he's pulling from these multiples that he works with is accurate, we're going to see more and more of this as we get closer and closer to the end.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. And listen, I've been remiss also in doing this. I want to remind you, you're listening to the Grassy Knoll on AM 1350 WDCF, AM 1400 WZHR. We have with us the Gilberts, Sharon and Derek. Their site is peeringintodarkness.com. And guys, tell us what that site's about, what kind of broadcast you do, and what kind of literature there is for people to find.
Well, it's called Peering into Darkness because that really is what we're doing. We recognize that we live in a supernatural world. The natural world that we see around us is just, what we can see with our limited vision. But the things that go on in the unseen world are just as real. We simply can't not sense them. We can see their effect in our world. And so we look at that supernatural world as if it's a dark place, because most of it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The wonderful brightness that comes from Jesus Christ, that's something that we consider very real in our lives, and that gives us the strength and the courage to look into this dark place. And so Peering into Darkness is a site where you will find links to Watcher Magazine, which is our news portal, and we put all kinds of stories up there that we consider are important when it comes to, facing the supernatural world and trying to figure out who's on first when it comes to conspiracies. And it also links to PID Radio, which is a broadcast that Derek and I do once a week, and we interview people like Chuck Wilcox and Russ Dizdar and Vyzygoth.
You haven't interviewed me in a while.
Well, you'll have to come back on.
No, I won't.
Oh, yeah?
We have pictures.
We do.
Yeah, I got photos, right? Yeah.
Anyway, we do that. We also have links to Derek's personal blog and to my site, and we have a forum that we've got people on there that just really have become a community, and they get on and they talk about the stories that we're discussing or the radio show or things that we've never heard of. And it's just become a really great place for people of like minds to come and share what they're learning about this world.
All right, fair enough. What I want to do is, if we can, I want to run three things by you, and also I want to talk to you about an email Derek sent me about Bertelsmann.
Yes.
That was Sharon's research.
Bertelsmann AG.
For you guys. But before I'll do that, can I read you three interesting things from the Vatican?
Mm-hmm.
All right, it says on October 5th, 2005, the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church published a teaching document instructing the faithful that some parts of the Bible are not actually true.
Yeah, we saw that.
Have you seen this?
Yeah.
All right, the publication entitled The Gift of the Scripture says, we should not expect to find in Scripture a full scientific accuracy or complete historical precision. The article states that the first 11 chapters of Genesis are not accurate. What the heck? And the report also denies Matthew 27:25 and the entire book of Revelation.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, guys.
I remember that.
I love it. All right, now.
That's the same article where they say that we don't want to repeat of the Copernicus-Galileo days.
Yeah, right. And if there is, there'll be inquisitions. All right, here's the other one. This cracks me up. Evolution in the Bible says Vatican. Have you heard this one?
Yeah.
I hate it. Why don't you people not do so much research?
See, we have to keep up the news on Watcher Magazine, so we're backed into a corner doing that.
You're creeps.
No, read it, because your listeners need to hear it.
Thank you. The Vatican has issued a stout defense of Charles Darwin's voicing strong criticism of Christian fundamentalists who reject the theory of evolution and interpret the biblical account of creation literally. Oh, I mean, yeah.
Can you believe that? The Catholic Church is coming out and saying that. We have this theory on it, and then I'll let you get to the third one. We have a theory that the Catholic Church is helping to condition people so that when there's a big revelation about people from other planets,
they'll be right there
to hear it.
They're ready for anything, majority or anything else. All right, this is the last one, and if you people have found this, don't tell me. No, God, I could never go to school with you guys. All right, here's the title: Communitarianism, the Vatican, and a New Global Order by Robert L. Phillips. Have you heard this?
That's a new one.
That's a new one.
Oh, good. Well, when I first saw this, I said, "Oh my God, an expose! They're going to blow it off on, they're going to blow the whole lid off the Vatican." No. Here's what it says in the puff piece: Pope John Paul's great vision of communitarianism, which is a nice word for communism, and a new global order has yet to receive the recognition it deserves in furthering the understanding that humanity is built on religious values. What gobbledygook. I'll cut down in the end. It says, communitarianism presents an encouraging universal notion of freedom. Bells go off, right? Transcending the one-sided stances of Marxism and libertarian capitalism and promoting the vision of a unified human destiny. What garbage that is. It's the old story about demonized capitalism, demonized communism, and the Vatican will get you into the place you ought to be. And as we know, that's another form of global slavery, which of course they're promoting.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys want to expand on that at all?
Well, I was just thinking as you were reading it that should be set to music. Those sound like lyrics from some kind of a propaganda song.
Yeah, we should make a redo of Cabaret.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I thought was interesting, and again, Derek, Sharon, whoever sent this along, Bertelsmann admits Nazi past. What up with that?
Well, you sent it, so you go ahead and start.
Well, Sharon started on this. We actually we're looking.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We started doing some looking into this thing that came out this past week about Sony BMG putting out these CDs over the last 8 months, music discs, that load software onto your Windows PC that open a back door and start sending personal information about what you're listening and what you're listening and where you're listening to it back to Sony. And we thought, well, we need to check into this just a little bit more. Why does Sony BMG need to find out about this? And so Sharon started digging into the background of BMG, which of course is Bertelsmann. And turned out that Bertelsmann not only owns most of the music business, but a good chunk of the publishing industry as well.
Yes.
Oh gosh, they own Random House, and which includes a whole bunch of publishing imprints.
Well, you got Ballantine,
Ballantine, Doubleday,
Fawcett, Ivy, One World, Wellspring.
Yeah, and Waterbrook Press, which means they're into the Christian publishing market as well.
They are. Yep.
Also, newspapers, magazines, Family Circle. Who knew? And a whole bunch of other things. So I mean, they've got the music aspect of it. They've got newspaper and magazine publishing. They've got book publishing, and the reason that they're such a dominant market force is that during World War II, they went from being a kind of a small-time religious publisher to publishing propaganda for the National Socialist Party. And apparently it was the Christmas book of the Hitler Youth that really put them over the top and multiplied their sales by a factor of 20 and made them a major player. And, of course, they kept costs low by using Jewish slave labor. So they finally came out and admitted that in 2002 and said, oh, sorry.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing. Bertelsmann, because they're not only publishing the books and the magazines and the CDs and the DVDs and involved in television and film.
Right.
Because they also own Universal.
Right.
And they not only have all that, but they also know everybody that's subscribing to the magazines and who's buying the books and who's buying the CDs and what exactly it is you're buying.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're subscribing to Guns R Us, they know it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're subscribing to Little Boys Are Fun, they know it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So they are doing data mining. So why should it be a surprise then to find out that Sony BMG is installing software that spies on you?
Yeah, and the funny thing, and this truly was funny, was that the Washington Post article that revealed all of this that came out yesterday said, Sony has issued a patch for the flawed security software. That flawed my eye. It's doing exactly what they wanted to do.
That's right. You got it. Also, I think it's interesting that as far as German companies go, the old story about IG Farben, whose derivatives were Bayer, Vyzygoth, who else was it? Bayer, Hoechst.
Hoffman LaRoche?
I'm not sure about that one.
No,
they're Swiss.
LaRoche was.
But it was definitely Vyzygoth Basov. That's the other one I was looking for, and Bayer. Well, the thing is, after the Nuremberg trials, very silently, those companies were brought over to the United States, but they weren't consolidated as IG Farben. They went off into Bayer and Basov and all that stuff. And I tell you what, it's kind of chilling, but if folks want to go back, just do a search on Bayer AG or whatever and find out what that company's doing. And, I mean, I'm not going to run with this, but when you look at the Bayer symbol on the aspirin, it's the Iron Cross.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, the thing that is occurred to me recently is that I don't know if this was part of the plan going into the 1940s, but it sure looks as though the way the end game played out for the Nazis in 45 was to basically take the occult strain that was the core of the Nazi Party and inject it into the military-industrial complex of the United States.
Yeah, and I tell you what, yeah, that's a good point. So I'm going to ask you straight out. This is a serious question, and it's hurtful, but I'll do it. And that is, it's hard to look at yourself in a mirror, but have we somehow, some way, and I would think that the Bush continuum has got something to do with it, but I'm not going to limit it to Republicans. Have we, folks, embraced and nurtured and now are ready to propagate the Nazi spirit of socialism and nationalism and racism?
Well, I think the roots of that probably go way back to the 1920s.
Okay.
If you take a look at some of the early oil barons who were partnering up with IG Farben and companies like that and they were playing both sides with regard to who were the big players in World War I as it was just starting up.
Oh, as far as industrial? Austria?
Yeah. But I think all of that goes back to, and of course, it's an open secret about Prescott Bush.
Mm-hmm.
But his father was involved in some of that early on.
No doubt.
Yeah, and so that stuff goes way back. And you're right. It's not Republican and Democrat because it's either side.
Yeah,
it really is just this notion of elitism. We know how to run the world. You don't know how to run the world. All you have to do is just play your games, drink your beer, and work for us.
Yeah, and
when you're no longer useful, then we don't care anymore.
Yeah, and we are reaping what we've sown. You're right. The public perception of who we are as a nation has been shaped over the last. It's been shaped almost since day one. But it is shaped by the media. We are told that we are the shining beacon of truth and justice in the world, and that it's our duty to go out and spread democracy to the rest of the world. When in fact, when you start digging under the surface, you find that we're running drugs to other nations. Mm-hmm. We're running drugs from other nations into our own cities, and people who disclose such information, like reporter Gary Webb of the San Jose Mercury News. Yep. Yeah, he gets suicided. Commits suicide by shooting himself in the head twice.
I know.
And yet most Americans, because we want to believe that we're the good guys, that we truly are, and I honestly believe that most Americans at heart are good people who just haven't looked hard enough at the American myth that has been fed to us by Democrat and Republican for the last 150 years, are just willing to go along with the illusion. and we just can't understand why the rest of the world sees us totally differently. Well, it's because they hate our freedom. Oh, okay, that's good enough reason for me. Yeah, we are seeing America now, I think, that looks a lot like Germany of the 1930s. You know, the eugenics movement of the 1930s has been repackaged as the right of a woman to choose. And I think it's just tragic that women who are in that movement don't see it for what it is. We're seeing the nationalist spirit of the United States that has been fanned to a fever pitch by the alleged attacks from outside, you know, by Muslim extremists, which is analogous to the way Hitler got the Germans in the 1930s to, you know, ready to go to war.
Rally around the Reichstag fire.
Exactly, the Reichstag fire, which was pinned on a patsy. There are so many parallels. You know, again, there's another book, I suppose. But
well, and ironically, the whole politically correct idea of diversity, I think what that's done is just cause some people to feel even more angry and to want to strike out even more at people who are not the same as they. And so if you're someone who has been inclined to be anti-Jewish, you're told that you have to respect, you know, the Jewish faith and this and that. If your inclination goes in that direction, that's not going to work for you necessarily. It may make you even more apt to hate that Jewish person.
Or as the Collins brothers have written, the folks down in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas having to deal with the influx of people across the border.
Exactly. Being told that they have to tolerate it is making it even harder for them to tolerate
Right.
it.
Let me ask you this. Can I hold you over for another half hour?
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Let's take a break right now. We'll come back for another half hour. Thanks very much for doing that, folks. But there's some stuff I really want to run by you, okay?
Excellent.
All right. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. But on the other end, Derek and Sharon Gilbert are willing to do so. They have a website called peeringintodarkness.com. And, guys, would you tell us what people can find on that website?
Well, it's basically the page that we devote to the writing projects that we have and the interviews that we do for the PID Radio, which is our weekly podcast. You can take it with you in your iPod or other portable music device. We also have a site devoted to news, which is maybe why we're able to find all these stories. We're both news junkies, and so we put up a site called WatcherMagazine.com. And again, these are all connected together through a row of like folder tabs at the top of the page. But peeringintodarkness.com, you'll see what we've got in terms of writing projects, books, and so forth, and WatcherMagazine.com. And then we've got a forum devoted to discussing the topics that we bring up.
Also, I mean, Sharon, do you want to weigh in on anything? Otherwise, I want to go on to another topic.
Actually, I want to bring up one more thing about Bertelsmann.
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh,
yeah. Good. Yeah. Good point.
There is a small town in England called East Riding. It's in Yorkshire.
Yes.
They have been taken over by Bertelsmann.
In what sense?
Literally, Bertelsmann has taken over administration of this town.
They have a new division of the corporation that is devoted to providing government services on a public-private partnership, PPP basis.
Something that is actually going to be put into effect in Canada as well soon.
Yeah, you're going to see more and more of that, I think, as...
Public-private partnership.
Right.
That is, that's a death knell.
It is. It's essentially a corporation taking over a town.
Well,
and then they'll take over the county. Then they'll take over the country.
Well, yeah, that's a good point, because you're seeing it. All right, now you've witnessed that, or you've at least evidenced that over in Europe.
Well, I think we're seeing it here, too. It's
there you go.
Down in dribs and drabs. It's called farming it out to private industry.
Yeah, right.
Outsourcing. In fact, yes, you're right. We have seen that when we saw the security teams from Wackenhut and Blackwater and that Israeli firm whose name I can't remember, down in New Orleans patrolling the streets, some of whom were wearing badges of the Louisiana State Police.
You're right. Blackwater, Servitas, and I think there was another one called IS or IDS. I'm not sure, but that's...
I think IDS is the one from Israel, right?
That's right. And they had, some expatriated Israelis on that.
Right.
And they also brag on their website, which I checked out, that's the way they train.
Mm-hmm.
But what's so scary, and which people aren't thinking about, is that here you have basically mercenary armies patrolling your streets that are not bound by the Constitution, even though they may be American.
Right.
And so whatever goes, goes. I mean, this is absolute, well, not anarchy, but, what they say goes, and they should be bearing arms against American citizens.
Right. And what's really creepy is that Wackenhut, which has been around for a long time, and, they were part of this partnership, tying this back into the satanic realm, part of this partnership out there at Cabazon Indian Reservation in California. But Wackenhut has a special dispensation from Congress, and this is something they promote on their website. They are protected by an act of Congress in which they have limited liability for failure to prevent a terror attack against a facility that they happen to be guarding. So if for some reason one of our nuclear plants should happen to explode, or say the Department of Homeland Security offices in Washington D.C. are taken out, or something happens in New Orleans or wherever, and somebody is accidentally injured, the Wackenhut has limited liability according to the United States Congress. And we just found it really weird that Wackenhut is guarding the Department of Homeland Security building in Washington, D.C.
Because, and also they run prisons, and again, they're a private firm.
They are a private firm.
Right. Not necessarily, or obviously by extension, not bound to uphold the Constitution, and so therefore they can do whatever they want to do.
This is another industry like the defense industry. I mean, because most of these guys in Wackenhut, the little bit of research that we've been able to do on them today is that many of their directors are former members of the FBI, of the CIA, of other branches of law enforcement or the military, and they're moving in and out of these private companies, just as people in the Defense Department will move back and forth between, say, the Pentagon and major defense contractors, or in the case of Big Pharma, people will move in and out of the FDA or Health and Human Services or CDC and the big vaccine manufacturers or other drug manufacturers.
Or become Secretary of Defense.
Yeah. In which case you can kill two birds with one stone.
Birds? That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of ways I want to go here, but what we'll do is let's treat the whole avian flu thing. What's your take on whether this is real or this is a little freak out to drive people to get vaccines, whose financial result will wind up in Rumsfeld's pocket and others?
Well, I think that the avian flu is real, but I think that the scare that we're seeing run up in the press and on television is blown way out of proportion. I think that there are many other things in the world that are far scarier than the avian flu.
For example, there was a major outbreak of the Marburg virus in Angola that began about a year ago in October and ran through about May of this year. And over 320 people died. It was a very communicable...
It was almost 100%.
Yeah, disease with about a 100% case fatality rate. That is dangerous. And when it's within a stone's throw, almost literally, of an international airport, which it was, because there were cases reported in the outskirts of the capital city of Angola, then you have to be concerned, because all it would take is one person to get on a plane and then a day or two later start feeling, poorly after he's already traveled to Toronto or New York or Paris or someplace, and then you've got an outbreak taking place, somewhere. This seems to have been contained to Angola, although there were some cases that looked like it might have been in, the country just to the north of Angola. But you hardly heard anything at all about this in the news. And the avian flu has killed so far about 65 people worldwide. And that's like over the last, 3 years? Something like that. Yeah, 65 people of that. It was like the SARS outbreak. SARS killed, about 800 worldwide?
Kill that many?
I think it was about 800 total. But here you had, in the span of less than 6 months, 300 people dying, 100% case fatality rate. You catch it, you're dead 2 weeks later, and nothing is said about it. Now here we've got 65 people died worldwide, and nations are running out and buying Tamiflu. I mean, if Roche devoted all of its production capacity to Tamiflu 24/7, they wouldn't be able to fill the orders that they've got in-house now until 2007, I think.
Well, I think the problem with Marburg is there's no medicine that they can sell that will help you with Marburg. However, the avian flu, they can convince you, they think, that Tamiflu is going to help. It won't, but they
you're right.
try to convince you of that.
Right, and in fact, it may actually hurt you. There's a story that's come out of Japan this week that 12 children, after taking Tamiflu, have died.
Yeah, 13 actually.
Oh, 13 now.
Yeah.
13.
Well, I tell you what, I won't read the excerpts from the 2 books I got, but I want to run this by you. Everybody's forgotten this because the smallpox and the anthrax scare went away. You remember when we had that little thing?
Right.
Okay, well, Dr. Gostin from Georgetown University, the seat of Jesuitry, came up with the Model Emergency Health Powers Act. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, anyway, every state had a choice to adopt whatever part they wanted of it. What bothered me was, and remember now, if you really think about it, okay, if something were to happen today, folks, whether it's up by you in Missouri or down here in Florida, what agencies are really ready to implement this? Because I mean, obviously, they're not in place. I mean, hurricanes show obviously the holes in any emergency management agency's ability to react. So, in other words, we'll read this and we can think about brown shirts coming to your house and stuff like that. But I mean, you're really on your own if anything happens. But let me just read this excerpt from Florida's version of the Emergency Health Powers Act. Okay, and what I really don't like is this. It says, if the individual poses a danger to the public health, the state health officer may subject the individual to quarantine. If there is no practical method to quarantine the individual, the state health officer may use any means necessary to vaccinate or treat the individual. Now, that's just an excerpt, I understand, but here's my point. It's like, why don't you just leave me alone? Mm-hmm. If I don't want to go, let me just stay home. You want to guard my house? Fine, let me just stay in my house, and I won't come out until you tell me when, because we have enough stores, and we make this, obviously a point in our household, given that we live in Florida, and there's like hurricanes and tornadoes, so that if anything goes down, we're cool for like a month or two. I mean, don't worry about us. So here's my point. One, I don't like the fact that the language means by any means necessary to quarantine or to vaccinate.
Yeah, that's very open language.
And I tell you what, I back in this day when I wrote this for a local newspaper, I had checked out other bills akin to this that were very, were much more gentler. But this one in Florida, I mean, like, holy mackerel, I mean, that's like so Nazi. And I'm not blaming it on Jeb Bush or anything like that, more like Ginny Brown Waithe. But, it's like, well, no, well, what if I just want to stay home and stay in my building? Leave me alone. Can I stay in my household and be okay? And so that's what we're looking at with this whole situation is that, like if I've got my stores and I don't want to really be vaccinated, can you, like, just leave me alone? What do you think, guys?
Well, I think you're right. I think that the Florida law is an example of where we're going, and I think again we saw that put into practice, a trial run anyway, in New Orleans. We don't care if you've got water and food. We're telling you got to give us your legally registered gun and get out of your house. You're coughing, you're sneezing. We think you pose a danger to the health of your neighbors, and so we're going to take you in and put you in quarantine, where if you haven't been exposed to the flu, you're going to be exposed to it by the time you get into the camp. And the thing is, whether people in other states think, well, that's Florida, that doesn't apply here, you're wrong, because the president has signed a couple of executive orders over the last couple of years that give the CDC the authority to do just what Viz described, wherever you are in the land of the free.
Well, I will say this. I'll play devil's advocate just for a minute because there are many well-intended healthcare workers out there.
Absolutely.
And what healthcare workers are taught is that you have to consider every person an open door. And you have to close all the doors before you can really feel safe against a widespread epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to consider every person, if they have not been vaccinated, that door's open.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it's understandable to a well-intended health professional that he or she is going to try his or her best to make sure that you have been vaccinated. However, here's my problem. That's with the way that the language that President Bush is using lately. It's not just an established pandemic. It is a theoretical pandemic that they can vaccinate you against.
And the thing is, the media has done such a good job of preparing the public for it that I think you're going to find a majority of people in agreement with the use of the military to enforce a mandatory vaccination program.
Right. Which brings us to the Patriot Act. States aside, the Patriot Act says language very similar to what your Florida plan says, and that is that they can come to your door. If you cannot show you have been vaccinated, they can quarantine you there, or they can choose to take you away.
You're absolutely right, and I'll tell you what, though, the demonstration of trying to deal house to house, as we've seen in New Orleans and other places, is really, really, just monumental. And so I really, when I look at this, I'm saying, who are you going to bring to my door, man? And when is it going to happen? So I don't really think it's going to, it's that evident. The thing is, though, that I don't want to be brought by my hand to a place I don't want to go.
No.
And so, this is high blown, but it's probably not really implemental because they're just not in any kind of situation to go door to door and ask people if do you want to get a vaccine or not.
Well, exactly, and I think that frankly that we saw that going on in New Orleans because there were a lot of people who did not want to leave their home.
That's right.
They weren't being asked to take a shot they didn't want. They just wanted to stay in their home.
And if they had their stores and they were fine, and weren't going to later on, crawl to their roof and ask for help, then let them go. That's their privilege.
Yeah.
But did you find? Do you think that out of all of this, with the lack of responsiveness by the state of Louisiana, and I can't speak to Mississippi and otherwise, but that this outcry for federal help was kind of orchestrated so that once again, we're asking the state to be our big brother. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a deliberate attempt to create the chaos from which order was drawn. And again, this is the right up the alley of Paul and Philip Collins, the book that they've written on the use of terrorism by the state as a tool to shape public opinion.
Sure.
Let's frighten people into the mindset that we want so that we can then propose a solution that we want and have them accept it with open arms instead of meeting us, at the border with guns. I think that's exactly what's going on and what happened, and I think we're going to see more situations like that, and in different forms. We see the news playing a part in that by playing up every new terror attack that takes place, every new bomb that goes off, just to keep us on edge and fearful. Wanting Big Brother to come in and provide the solution. We want security, and we will give up whatever freedoms you ask, because so that we can be secure to sit in our homes, drink our beer, and watch our football.
But it's not a protection racket. No.
Oh no. Hey, Derek.
There's only some very, very remarkably like one.
Derek?
Yes, sir.
You got a problem with drinking beer and watching football?
Not at all.
That's all right. All right.
We love doing that as long as it's the Bears playing. And here we live in St. Louis, and we should be saying the Rams, but I like watching the Bears.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Well, you know, they're big guys, and they fall down a lot, and I think it's kind of fun to watch.
Well, the Bears can stop beating each other.
Watching football or baseball with Sharon is wonderful. It's a totally new experience. The World Series this year was marvelous because she does much better color commentary than Tim McCarver.
I have a unique perspective on competitive sports.
What's he doing there? I said, well, that's a signal to... What's he telling him to do? Scratch and then pat the guy on the butt? What's he...
I don't doubt that.
It makes for a much more entertaining game. I know guys that I work with who just wouldn't tolerate that because they take things way too seriously. But
hey, look, one year they were trying to figure out who was going to win the World Series, and I said, well, let me just figure it out. And I went through, or was it the basketball thing? But I went through and I looked at the average height of everybody on the team.
Oh, no.
The average weight of everybody on the team, and I picked the ones that were the healthiest.
Yeah. Yeah, and she was right. She was way ahead of me in the pool, that's for sure.
I'll tell you what, Sharon, stay loose because there's a whole lot of people from Vegas that want to talk to you. All right. Now we're going to talk about Masonic symbolism. A little hard.
Yes.
Well, I have to tell you this. This is pretty funny. This was in the New York Times. Michael Cooper, Jerusalem, November 14th. You know, Hillary's over there, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten that.
Well, here's what happens. It goes a few hours later. Mrs. Clinton was given a vest with the emblem of the Red Shield of David, the Israeli version of the Red Cross. We hope that someday, this is a quote, it will be hanging on the walls of the Oval Office. All right, now, unquote. All right, now, this is so replete with symbolism. Are you hip to Red Shield?
Rothschild.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. In other words, when that babe put that with that vest on, Rothschild said, "You're my girl."
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so I'm just laughing about that. And I would say, honestly, that probably she's your next president.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, and do we care? No, because anybody who sits in the awful office, is handled. So what's the big deal?
Yeah.
But when she put that vest on with the with the designation of the Red Shield of David, I'm like, yeah, okay. And are you guys hip to that also, that the Masonic, the Star of David, the flag of Israel, is Masonic?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got nothing to do with Israelis. I mean, Albert Pike, wrote this in 1878. I mean, this has got nothing to do with David. I don't know how they ever attributed that to him. But, I mean, it is, whatever you want to call it, two intertwined pyramids.
Right. Isn't it also Kabbalistic?
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, Pike's writing is pretty dense, but, you can go through and pick out enough there to say, okay, well, clearly we know that he's not serving the good guys. We've got a couple of folks in our forum, or one in particular, who's seems to be a good-hearted guy. And he said, "Hi, I'm a Mason."
Hello.
What's all this stuff about the Masons being Luciferian and stuff? Well, I said it's right here, level 19, where Pike says Lucifer is the light bearer. Well, okay, but besides that.
Well, I tell you what, I got an email. Maybe it's from the same individual out in Colorado, who was perturbed. I mean, but was very, very officious, and said, well, what about this? What about that? We went back and forth, and I said, well, listen, I tell you what, and unbelievably, Morals and Dogma is online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I said, why don't you go take a look at that and see how Pike, in his writings, twists that very benign, so to speaking, attribution to the angel of light or light, to the fact that Lucifer's cool and El-Adonai is like a really bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And are you familiar with that at all?
Oh yeah, it's very clear.
I read it. Yeah.
It was kind of interesting to me because I've been doing some reading about the ancient Sumerians to learn that the symbol used for the 32nd and 33rd degree Freemasons in the Scottish Rite is that double-headed eagle of Lagash.
Yes.
Lagash was a city in ancient Sumer, and that the symbol was the symbol for the god Ningirsu, which was just the deified Nimrod, who was the first, big rebel after the flood, the one that built the Tower of Babel, that got God so cheesed off that he personally came down and intervened, which was like, the last time that, until Jesus, that God personally came down and said, okay, this is going to stop, and, put a stop to things. why, if these are genuine Christian or organization, would they pick a symbol that's representative, first of all, of a pagan god, and secondly, of one who was clearly in opposition to God? And,
well,
I don't think most of the lower level Masons, the Blue Lodge guys especially, really have thought that through.
They really think that they're in an organization that simply does good work.
Yeah, and they do some good things.
And they do. Honestly, they do. And the Shriners do good stuff too.
Right.
I against my better judgment, my 83-year-old uncle, who has been a lodge, master and all that stuff, I wrote to him something because it just fit in, and I just said, "Oh, by the way, Unc, what about that?" And I tell you what, I mean, the guy to me, and even Lady Biz knows him. There's just nothing there that I would seem nefarious. And he wrote back to me this is what I was, and I was a third degree, and that's it. I talked to Russ Dizdar, and Dizdar said to me, "Well, I'll tell you what, if they're in the third degree, Blue Lodge, they know what's going on." And I tell you what, Russ is probably right. I'm not going to press my uncle. I mean, he's near his death, and I'm just not going to bust his chops. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
However, I do still have, I do wonder what's going on with my uncle. I don't know. I just don't see anything nefarious. But on the other hand, when you get to high degree Freemasonry, obviously it's extremely occult. It embraces all the symbols of Egyptian sun god worship. And it goes back to Mystery Babylon, and it is really problematic.
Yeah.
And guys, I don't know if you got the same email I got, or if I sent it on to you. But there was a gentleman who said, I've been a master of the lodge, and I just don't see this. And I just directed him to Morals and Dogma. I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah.
Well, that's really all you can do, and if he's brave enough to go and read it, and he does so with an open mind and an open heart, God will show him.
I would think so, and I mean, I don't think you can dismiss Pike's works whatsoever.
And I know that they will try, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how in your face so many of these things are. Mm-hmm. And once you see it, it's like those magic eye things. You can look at it and not see it, and then suddenly when it does finally resolve and you see the hidden picture, it's like, oh, how could I miss that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, and we, we've all talked, and it's old history now about the symbolism on the dollar bill, and Roosevelt's hand in that.
What's funny about that is the "In God We Trust" thing that's on there.
Well, it's like
because that's pagan.
How so?
What is the actual phrase, Derek?
Oh gosh, I looked it up for the fellow on our forum.
It actually is a Masonic phrase.
It's a variant of the Masonic phrase of the Scottish Rite.
But are we talking about novo seclor mortem, or?
No, that's way back there. Let me see if I can pull it up here while we're talking.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
Discuss amongst yourselves while I try to call up the Earl. No, I looked it up, and it going back to the early days of the Republic here. The official motto of the
Republic.
Yeah, well, of the Masons.
Okay.
Back in the 18th century was
what mean worry?
Well, while he's looking that up, I want to say something that I thought of earlier and I forgot. Back to Bertelsmann.
Go ahead.
They bought, if our information is correct, they bought out Vivendi, which is a big music company.
Mm-hmm.
Vivendi, if you ever look up the phrase Ordo Sinistra Vivendi, it means Order of the Left Hand Way.
Say that again.
Ordo Sinistra Vivendi.
Okay. Order.
Sinistra Vivendi. It means Order of the Left Hand Way.
Sinister, yeah.
Yeah. I always thought that was interesting that the name of that company was Vivendi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, found it. In God We Trust. The motto of 32nd degree Scottish Rite Freemasonry is Spes Mea, and I'm butchering the Latin, I never took it. Spes Mea in Deo Est. My hope is in God.
Okay.
You go back to the 1717, the Premier Grand Lodge of Freemasons, and or further back, 1677, the London Company of Masons, which I presume was the one of those flavors were the flavors that the early Masons of the founding fathers, where they came from. Their motto was "In Deo Fiducia Vinces," which is "In the Lord is all our trust."
Mm-hmm.
And so now we've got our coinage and our money. In God we trust. So, which God are they talking about?
Exactly.
Well, given by the other symbols on the back of that dollar, I think we know.
I think we know, too, and that's, honestly, if they take that phrase off the dollar, I don't know why Christians should care.
Mm-hmm.
Only because God would be a big deal with them, but they don't know from whence that came.
Exactly. They don't know about that. It doesn't say what God they're talking about. Also, if you look at Scripture, it says the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
And how interesting to put in God we trust on our money.
Yeah. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
But Sharon, you raised something very, we're cutting it a little tight perhaps, but I think it's true. That the biblical adjuration that the love of money is the root of all evil. In other words, you don't necessarily have to have it,
right?
But you want to desire it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that may be cutting it too tight, but I don't think so, because I think that's what's happened. Because those who would be enticed by wealth are the ones, and of course we know, who serve mammon. And that's exactly what we're fighting against. Because, I mean, with all that's going on, with all the money that's being made by this administration, and administrations before it, it's all about the money. I mean, how many millions can you make until you're, satiated?
Always $1 more. That's what they always want. Always $1 more, always $1 million more.
When you see the absolute wealth that's flowing out to these characters like Rumsfeld in all certain venues, whether it's aspartame or Bechtel or whatever, I mean, it's like it always goes back to them. It's like, how much do you really need, bro?
Well, I don't think, looking at the composition of the guys in the current administration and the three most profitable industries in America today, I don't think there's any coincidence. The three most profitable industries are pharmaceuticals,
right?
Oil,
petroleum, right?
Banking.
You got it. That's it. That's
and you look at who's controlling the government and who's calling the shots in the way we live our lives, and that's it. The bankers, the oil men, and big pharmaceutical.
But I would submit this, that none of those people have a residence in D.C. They're elsewhere. And, of course, I always go back to the Rockefellers and the Morgans and that cartel. Mm-hmm. That the people who are making the decisions are not in the district of criminals.
No, that's true. They're elsewhere, scattered about, and we're plotting them all on a great big map in our... No,